Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. My name is Austin Bram, and I am the Principal AI Evangelist here at EverWorker. Thank you all for joining us today as we have a super exciting session, I think, for all of you. And having our Chief Product Officer and our co-founder, Anton Antic, here with us is such a big deal. So thank you so much for joining, Anton. Before we get started, everybody, I kind of want to just lay down some general ground rules necessarily, or like what is going on during this session. So first and foremost is Anton and I really want this to be as interactive as possible and more or less informal, as if we're all having a conversation together, because especially in the times of agentic AI in general, it's kind of confusing. Things are a little bit scary at times. So please feel free, wherever you're watching this from, you can throw things in the comments, you can throw things in the chat. We'll be interacting in the chat and comments as well. So if you have any questions in the middle of this, we can see that. So we can ask Anton in real time and try to get an answer in real time. And then for everyone to know, this is being recorded everywhere. So if you want to watch this or send this to people again after the fact, you'll find it on our YouTube channel. You'll find it on our LinkedIn, as well as on Anton's channels as well. And other than that, let's kind of jump into the general gist of what are we doing here today. Today, we're going to be introducing to you our new EverWorker Desktop app that Anton has basically built so that everyone can try and see what's going on in the world of AI agents, because that's all everyone's talking about. But the cool thing is, Anton has been talking about AI agents for years now, before it got cool in the last year or even 6 months, where a lot of people are hearing about this. So Anton, just to bring you into the conversation here, you are a literal foundational person thinking about AI agents and actually bringing them to life. I would love to give you a chance to just introduce yourself slightly to all the people that are watching, and then kind of tell us, how did you get into this whole world of agentic AI?
Yeah, thanks, Austin. Great to be here. Great to be coming back to this live streams. If there are somebody among you who have followed our journey from Integral to EverWorker, you might remember that some a year and a half ago, we were actually doing this live agent sessions. But eventually, since we refocused on the enterprise, we kind of stopped doing that because unfortunately now there is no easy way to try out our platform. But that was something that bothered me for a long time. So we are very happy to get back to doing this thanks to this desktop app. And it's not a polished product. It's not something that we want to do commercially. It's just actually a tool that we used internally to do different experiments with agents. And we just want to share with you, want to get feedback and want to see where we can take all this thing together. As for the whole agentic stuff, this is actually pretty funny story, because Austin is right. We started Integral, which is now EverWorker, with the main vision of enabling every person on earth to be able to create their own AI agents as easily as possible. And that was end of 23, where people were just starting doing ChatGPT stuff, and then we kind of thought about building the agents. But how we ended up there is, it's a bit of a funny story. There is a very good book about AI, and we'll put the book somewhere in the comments eventually. It's very thick, and it has been republished maybe 5 or 6 times. So people started writing it somewhere in the 80s, and basically all they talk about is agents. And I read this book, I don't know, 20 years ago. So it sounded like older publications. And it kind of stuck with me. But of course, at that time, it was impossible to do any AI agents. We didn't have LLMs, so that there was no good tools to do that. But the idea was always with me. So when LLMs appeared, when ChatGPT 3.5 came out, which became quite powerful, that everybody realized that actually, okay, now we can start doing that stuff. That's where we're coming from. That's when we started talking about the agents. That's when we started building agents. And now finally the hype is there. But again, it has always been in our DNA to sort of make it very easy for everybody to try and to have full control. Because also one of the things I would really hate happening in the world is that there is AI controlled by huge corporations who will always, use AI in their own interest. I want to make sure AI works in the interest of every small business, of every individual person, that we actually have full control. We can fine tune them. We can understand what's happening under the hood. And that kind of gives power and freedom and creativity. So yeah, let's start this. Let's see where we get from this place together.
I love it. So just so everyone knows as well, I threw in the chat to the book that Anton is talking about by Stuart Russell. Very informative. He literally was the one that thought of basically agents. So super informative. Great book, by the way. And thank you, Anton, for that. So let's just go ahead. Anton has prepared some slides for all of us today that I'll throw up on the screen. And then Anton, I'll just kind of hand it off to you, and then we'll just kind of start the conversation from there.
Yeah, super. Thanks, Austin. And please don't be afraid. It's like only 2-3 slides. I just wanted to set the stage. Then we will jump onto the actual tool, and I will show you as much as we can live in today's session. But one of the things that we also try to do is provide some sort of education, because even though there is lots of hype, I think still a lot of people are kind of confused of what's really happening, and how do those agents work, how does ChatGPT works, etc. And basically the foundation of everything is the LLM, or large language model. Large language model is just a type of artificial neural networks, which is basically just matrix multiplication under the hood, but we don't want to get into this very technical details. The point is, it works in a very straightforward way. You give it something as input, so some text as input, and it produces some output based on the probabilistic rules that it learned during so-called training. And usually those LLMs are trained on all the vast knowledge accessible to humanity, starting from publicly accessible to many proprietary stuff as well. But the point is, LLM itself cannot do anything. It cannot call any code. It cannot remember anything. There is no state. It's just literally the foundational paper that studied the LLM movements was actually called transformers. And LLM is a transformer, and it describes what they do the best. It transforms the input text into the output text. So the question is, how do we get to all these wonderful things that even, ChatGPT, Claude Code, and other agents are able to do right now? So all of it is basically some code around the LLMs. So no matter which system you use, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Claude, whether it's Google, or it's your custom built agent, there is always an LLM, and there is a lot of code around it that allows you to do the advanced stuff. So what people normally are doing now, they're doing so-called RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation, which only means that whenever user is entering something, there is a separate software that goes and searches different databases to try to find relevant information to put it into the incoming context, because then LLMs are able to produce much more accurate, much more better results that you expect than if they don't have the information and they just respond out of what they learned. And the second big part, so this is about context management. We will talk about context management a lot. The second big part is so-called skills or tools. And this is the ability for LLM to actually do stuff. That's where it becomes very powerful. So again, this is just some code that's been written by programmers of OpenAI or Claude or us or you, if you do it manually, which analyzes the output of LLM. So LLM does not have to respond to you directly with text. It can produce structured output, such as JSON or other formats. So tools are usually JSON, which we then analyze. So for instance, I can ask the LLM, what is the current weather in Zurich? So LLM doesn't know. It has to somehow find out. But let's say that we have a tool, and here in the part of hidden context, we describe this tool that says, you, dear LLM, have a tool that will allow you to get the weather information from the web. And LLM knows that. Then when I ask it about the weather in Zurich, it produces JSON output that says, call my weather tool and ask it about the weather in Zurich. Then what happens? We have the software that analyzes it. We actually call this tool. We provide the response back to the LLM. We call it again, and then it is able to give you the correct answer. And that's how all the tools work. That's how all the agentic stuff works. And it's important to remember for at least one very important reason. And we have this very, very simple, or maybe even simplistic formula here on the screen, but that's actually all you have to remember as you're doing agents. Context multiplied by skills is your agentic power. So the more skills your agents have, the more skills they can use, the more power they have in terms of implementing change in the outside world. The context is a more subtle thing, and that's what everybody is working on. And the issue there, and that's one of the strengths of this desktop app that we are giving to you, presenting to you today, is that context is tricky. And let me go back here and explain why. The main problem with context, there are actually two. One, it's limited. So it's measured in so-called tokens. A token is roughly 3.5 symbols in English language, but it can vary. But doesn't matter. The point is the context is limited. So you cannot put everything here. That's one problem. Another problem is that the bigger the context becomes, the worse the LLM performance. So basically, you might have noticed that in the previous versions of ChatGPT, but even in the current versions of Claude Code, for instance, which we use very, very actively, if your context grows beyond a certain size, the LLM starts to be much stupider, so to say, for lack of a better word. It cannot find the relevant information that you already discussed. It starts forgetting things, etc., etc. So the key point, and that's where one of the main researches is currently being done in agentic world, is how do we manage the context for LLMs that they provide maximum power, maximum performance for us as users. And that's why this context multiplied by skills is absolutely key. And that's also what we do. That's what every major AI agentic vendor is doing. We are all thinking and fine-tuning how do we manage context to make sure your agents do what you want them to do. So with that, I think we can turn to the actual tool.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'll just go here. So desktop app, and again, guys, very rough around the edges. We just want to, follow early days Google's philosophy, which is release early, release often, get your feedback, and sort of work together with you. So it's not a polished commercial product. Again, it's just something we use internally to do experiments. And we thought, what if we give it to the public, and maybe you would find it useful and would want to play with it. So I think we have a link how to download it in our chat. We will improve, obviously, marketing around it. We'll have a dedicated page on our worker site. But another important thing to remember is that this app is being developed very fast. We have almost daily releases. But the good news is that you can go and download the version right now. It is a slightly older version, but we do have automatic updates available. So if you even install that older version, then you can always check what is the new version, and you will get all the latest and greatest functionality that we are working on. So with that, I'll close this old commercial version. I just wanted to show you this and go back to my development version, and let's try to see if we are able to show you.
Anton, before we get even deeper in this as well, let me actually move this around so people can see us. Is what would be the significance of a desktop app like this, especially in a time where everyone's so used to seeing, maybe not Claude Code, but everyone's hearing about, I guess, with Moltbook and all of these OpenClaw and Manus and all of these. What is the significance of an app like this?
Yeah. Well, basically, again, this is our way of giving back to the community, because our commercial platform has much more than what's in this desktop app, especially the features that corporations need around observability, predictability, compliance, security, etc. Plus all the power of pre-converting corporate data into formats that agents can understand, etc., etc. However, we do want to give back to the community, as we discussed. So what powers this is actually an open source library. So if you're a developer, you can actually use the library. If you are just a tinkerer or a builder, you can use this app directly and play with agents. But we think the more alternatives, the more people are starting to build agents using different tools, the better. We try to be a little bit more user-friendly, as we hope. And eventually, again, we might get to some sort of a polished desktop commercial product as well. But OpenClaw is really great. It kind of started the movement among many people. But we have some features which OpenClaw doesn't have. We have potentially nicer way to work with it in terms of visual interface. But also one of the main things, especially for builders, is that we provide full control, full visibility inside what's going on in the agents, and I will show that in a bit.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So basically, when you download it, what you need is to set up at least one connector to the LLM. And to set up a connector to the LLM is quite easy, but you would need a key. So again, we are considering sort of a semi-commercial app where you wouldn't need to do all that. But here, all you need to do is add provider. And actually, when you install the app from scratch, it will show you this. So you will be able to choose between OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Grok. And first, like really exciting things, you can use everything completely for free with Ollama, which gives you the ability to run local models. And local models that run on your laptop or on your computer have become very, very powerful. Like the ones that we recommend, which are latest Qwen models, they are on par with GPT-4, and they run completely locally. So I will show that in a second as well. But again, for you to start using it, you need to add at least one provider: OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Grok, or you could use Llama completely for free. It will download it for you under the hood. And once you have the provider, the next thing you do, you will have to create an agent. We do provide some default agent, but it's not very good. So it actually makes sense to go and create the one you want. So
Anton, before we get even deeper, because I know a ton of people that aren't technical or haven't seen something like this before might be even a little confused of the idea of why someone would need to add in a provider, whereas a lot, like, because it seems like a lot of applications are like, oh, it's just here. Whereas, can you explain to people what it really means that they need to provide their own like API token and things like that for these different providers? Because I'm sure a lot of people have never even heard of that before.
Right. Yeah. So again, what needs to happen is here, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, or Grok, all of them would issue you so-called API key. All you need to do is register with them, and then you will get this API key, which you need to enter here, and then you will be able to make calls to those API to provide this LLM background, which we discussed. But again, you don't need to do it. You can just use the local version with Ollama. Then you don't need to get any keys at all. You will just use your local model, and you don't need to go anywhere. And again, to Austin's point, this is our current development tool in the commercial version. If we ever get to it, we will hide all of that under the hood. It will just work out of box, but it won't be free because unfortunately the tokens from all these guys, they are not free. So we have to be mindful of our costs.
Yep.
All right. So the agent, let me actually show maybe a little bit of what's possible, and then I'll show how to create an actual agent. Sure. So for instance, I have one here. So this is something that tells you what's under the hood. We'll get to it in a bit as we go in depth. For now, let's just focus on what can be done here. So the usual chat interface with which you're probably familiar. However, we have some tweaks that we made to our agents. So here it's calling me James because I was experimenting and I asked it to call me James from now on. I was just testing the memory, so we can see it works. But also another very cool thing that we have available for all agents is so-called dynamic UI. And this is something that lives always in the context of an agent. And it's not like chat that gets disappeared, where an agent gets confused, it forgets things. This is something that is always in its memory, and you can always focus on it and work on it. And this is very dynamic, so you can do things such as, for instance, basic web research. I can say something like, do some quick research of the backup market in 25. Give me a nice report. So if I do something like that, of course, it will start calling these skills, these tools. And as you can see here, it actually updated the current focus. So it says analyzing market trends. So this is all live. But then, as you can see, it starts creating this live document on the fly. So the chat is not even the center of your attention, because again, the chat gets forgotten. It's just chat. But here, you always have something on which you can work with your agent right now. So it has given you an executive summary. It has shown some strategic trends. I can make it full screen here. It has drawn even some nice charts here. Talks about top 3 drivers. So basically, at a very stupidly formulated request, it gives you already some quite very useful ideas that you can work with. And there is even market projection, which didn't work for some reason, but sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But again, the point is that this UI is created for you on the fly, and it's always available here. So it doesn't matter how many messages you have here, this will never be forgotten. This is always in the center of attention of your agent. And you can use it for many things, for creating presentations, for planning, for creating flow charts and then converting them into software, etc., etc. So this dynamic UI alone is already a very, very interesting thing.
Yeah. And so that, Anton, the general idea here too is with, as everyone can see, I'll try to make it full screen for you all again, is you were just doing all of this through a normal chat interface, like where at the bottom of the screen where you're chatting, whereas a lot of times most people are having to either do these drag and drop builders exclusively and or having to understand a little bit of let's just call it software engineering generally to be able to, let's say, use Claude Code effectively. And right. In this case, we've kind of abstracted a lot of it away, whereas you can just, almost like vibe talk, I guess you could say, to the agent here.
Yep, exactly. That's a nice term.
So vibe talk.
So let's get a little bit under the hood, because again, we do focus this in its current state mostly on builders. You have to be curious of how these agents work to really get the most of this app in its current state. And for that, we have this look inside tab, which is, unlike, I believe, any other tools, is showing you full under the hood stuff for the current agent. So as you can see, it shows you the current context window. So it knows which models we're using. We have 1 million tokens available. We have used some like 23,000. We know how much we have left. We have token breakdown that tells us how many tokens different context plugins are taken, how many tokens tool calls are taken, how many tokens conversation is taken. So again, you have full visibility into what's happening inside the brain of your agent, and you can actually control it.
I feel like that's such a huge topic right now too. Is like if any of you are deep into the world of what's going on with, like, let's just say OpenClaw or these other tools, is that people are unknowingly spending thousands of dollars when they just say, oh, hey, go out and do such thing, and it works for 5 hours, and you come back with like a $1,000 API bill, basically.
Exactly.
Being able to see your token usage and where, that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, if you need to fine tune your agents, because, okay, if you just want to use something, you might not care so much. But if you want to fine tune the behavior and get predictable results and not be pissed off at the agents, because I don't know about you, but again, I'm using Claude Code, like 5 agents in parallel. I have to yell at them with curse words pretty much every 20 minutes. Otherwise, they don't do what you want them to do. And that's exactly because of how you manage context. So managing context is absolutely the key thing for you to get the agent performance right. But here, let's take a quick look of what else we have. So we have so-called plugins. And again, these plugins come from that open source library. If you're a developer, you can just use them directly. You can develop new ones, etc. But then you can see the context of all plugins. So we have a system prompt, which is basically custom instructions I give as an agent designer. We have so-called working memory. This one is really cool. So what it does, it stores the results of big tool calls. And that's the primary reason of context overflowing, overgrowing, and everything breaking. So this tool or this plugin automatically stores the results of big tool calls outside of the context. But inside the context, we keep an index which allows an agent at any time to look again at those results. So when an agent is working on a complex task, it is able to retrieve it, analyze it, get some thoughts for it, put it in the so-called in context memory, and then continue. But this way, again, we are managing the tokens very, very efficiently, despite the fact that we are calling many, many different tools, getting different results, etc. So this is the working memory, a really cool thing. Then in context memory is something that lives in context, well, like in the brain of an agent at every turn. And this is what we use to create plans. This is what we use to create this dynamic UI. So basically, this is rich markdown rendering of what we have here inside of the in-context memory. But it's not just that. I'm just trying to... it also shows the current plans that the agent is working on, and other sort of information that needs to be held in the operating memory. So again, we try to model our agents via these plugins. And if you're familiar with other tools, it's kind of a novelty approach, but it allows you to very flexibly do experiments, like whatever you want to do with the context, and how you manage overflows, how you manage the focus of an agent, etc. So again, working memory is kind of a long-term memory. Like for people, we remember something, but it lives like in the long-term memory, which we need to do some conscious effort to recall. This is what an agent can do. In context memory is our current operating memory, what we're working on right now. It's these documents that we're working on. And then it also has persistent instructions. So this is something also quite cool, because this allows an agent to learn. If it learns something about you, or if it learns something about how to do a certain task, it updates these persistent instructions for itself, and then next time it will use them automatically. And the same user info. So user info just stores information about me. And if you remember, like some months ago, there was this trend. People were asking ChatGPT, like, what do you know about me? Tell me. It's like, and it felt like magic. It's no magic. They just have a file like this that extracted information about you and showed it. We give you full control. Again, we believe in full control and transparency. You can always see what an agent knows about you, what it learned about how to do things, what it's working on currently, etc. So this full visibility, full control is our motto, and we want to see what you come up with your experiments and creativity.
So you can be in control of basic, because a lot of like when I'm obviously you hear it all the time, but like whenever, let's say we're at events, one of the things that most everyone is talking about with agents right now is, let's just call it, data governance, data security of sorts. What do they know? What don't they know? This gives you the full options and availability to edit, add, delete things from that context.
Exactly. You have full control. You can experiment. You can be sure that there are, no leaked passwords or API keys, and this security is a huge thing also with what is happening.
Yep.
And then, aside from this nice, visual tool, you can always inspect full context as it goes into an agent, and this is absolutely priceless for debugging in advanced cases. But you can see what we put as system message, what we put as actual message history, etc. So again, you have absolutely full control over the agents you create. And to work with the agents, you can do pretty much anything. That depends on the available tools. And this is where I think we should get back to the agent setup screen, because this is something that may be overwhelming. And again, we are thinking how to simplify it eventually to make sure this app is useful for absolutely non-technical or non-builders, non-tinkerers. But for now, you would have to do some setup here. Not that difficult, but still, again, makes sense to walk through it. So as you're creating a new agent, or as you are editing an agent, you always have a connector to LLM, because you have to use a certain LLM for your agent. So I have lots of connectors here that are configured, but you will be able to choose from the ones you have. Then you can choose an actual model. And again, we have lots of models depending on the vendor. You can choose the one you like. And you can experiment with models. And this is actually another cool thing, because models behave very, very differently. Like, for instance, now my favorite go-to agents for daily stuff are built on Gemini Flash. This is just amazing. It really tries to, to be visual, to be like very explainful, helpful, and it tries to do tool calls on itself to do the task that I'm asking it to do. For instance, GPT does not really behave like that. But again, the beauty of this is that you can experiment as much as you like.
Wait, Anton, before you move on, someone just asked a question that I feel like kind of pertains to this, exactly what you're talking about. You can see here that he's pretty much asking about how we went over with Llama, and that's on your actual device versus API versus via cloud. Are we in control when someone puts in their API key? Isn't basically that is querying their data over the cloud to this provider? How does it necessarily?
Yes, there's no way around it. It's like all the agents work. Like when you do Cloud Code, you go and call API and you send all your data into that API. So if you do OpenClaw, it's the same thing. I mean, if you go to an external API, you send all your data to external API. There is no way around it. That's why, I mean, in our enterprise platform, of course, we have private deployments where people can have private cloud. But yeah, if you're a personal user, actually, apart from using this local model, I don't think there is that much you can do from protecting that. So if you're worried about sending your data to some external API, then local model is the way to go.
Now, of course, all of these providers, do say that they're not using all of your data when you're using the API key, but of course, or their API, but of course, that's what it's the classic of like, they're saying that, but there's no true way of knowing or being able to control that without being local.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are, of course, you have to read the fine print and in their user agreements, etc. So, but that's actually, if we are being real about it, that's one of the advantages. Even if you use OpenAI through API, it's still there are options where, well, first of all, in the agreement they say that if you don't want that your data is used for learning, etc., they won't use it. So legally they are bound to do it. However, by default they are using it, but we turned it off. So we don't store any information on the open API side, for instance. So if you use us through API, you are more protected than if you use free ChatGPT, or if you use paid ChatGPT for like smaller amounts, because that's where they actually subsidize the usage, but they are using and reading your data. Via API, you're definitely more protected. But of course, to get maximum protection, you have to run your models locally.
And now that, I mean, we're still the same topic here. Thanks for all these great questions. He would like to know on your experience, which, I mean, Anton, you are in this every single day, seeing all the different models. What are your favorite models to use? What are you finding the ones that work the best besides maybe Gemini Flash?
Yeah, I mean, I actually like experimenting with different ones. They're all about the same level, I would say. But yeah, Gemini Flash is kind of very helpful for day-to-day tasks. Claude, and actually we just started playing with the new, it's not even here, they just released 5.4. So 5.4 is very interesting for coding tasks. They made quite some advances, but Claude works well as well. Grok is also very interesting because it's different from the others. As you know, Musk is, he's trying to be different. So edgy. Just comparing the answers different models give is very cool here as well. But yeah, for day-to-day stuff, currently Gemini is my favorite.
Yep, same.
So again, getting back to setting up an agent. So of course you can provide system instructions, and these system instructions give quite a bit of behavior, how your agent will behave, what tone of voice it will use, etc., etc. But of course, the main power, well, actually, yeah, before you go into tools, let me go via context real quick. So when you set up context, and again, we talked about how important it is. Basically, you have all these plugins here. So you can just turn them on and off, as easy as that. Then you can fine tune some of the settings, but it's not even necessary. You can just turn everything on and then, start experimenting. That's a good enough starting point. This one is quite interesting, again, for tinkerers, and especially if you're a developer and want to play with our open source library. So this is so-called context compaction strategy, because even if we manage the context very, very tightly, like we are doing, like putting it into long-term memory, etc., at some point you will get close to overflowing, or you will get close to the point where performance degrades. So we want to compact, we want to clean up the context. And that's where we also have plugin-based so-called strategies. So as you can see here, we have algorithmic and dump. Dump, don't ever use it. We just had it as a test. Algorithmic is there by default, but we will be adding more and more other advanced context strategies we are using in our enterprise platform. And again, if you want to experiment, you can do some pretty amazing stuff here. Because, for instance, what can you do? You can run all your message history through another LLM and ask it to summarize it, and then keep only key points in the context. You can do what people call like sleep cycles, right? So you talk to an agent for a certain amount of time, then it needs to process all the information, to think through what you talked about different tool calls, which worked, which didn't work. So all of it is this really advanced agentic stuff, which makes them very powerful, and you can add it if you want to play with that library and you're a developer via those strategy plugins. If you're not, then just use what is there, and this list will be constantly expanding. So finally, again, where the most power comes from, because again, you created your agent, you set up the context. The main power comes from tools. And tools, we have a lot. But the way they work is also slightly, what's the right word, advanced, because many of these tools rely on other API calls. Unfortunately, there is no way around it. Like, for instance, even web search. There is no ability to do web search without using a paid API. It's just, there is none. So either some tools that give it under the hood, they charge for it. That's the normal thing, or you have to set it up yourselves. So the way you do it here with us in our tool, here in the advanced tab, you have so-called universal connectors, and you can add lots of different connectors that we support as templates, and you can even add custom connectors to your systems if they support REST API. But here we have, all the major vendors, Google, Microsoft. We have different communication tools. So for web search, because this is two very important things which you will probably need, we use Zenrose for web scraping. This is another point on which I have to pay some attention, because we do have a free tool that allows you to get a web page. It's if you're a developer, of course, it's just one call in any language. However, the problem is that websites, many websites, they are trying to protect themselves against bots, even if it's an AI bot. This is kind of a battle which I truly believe the AI will eventually win. Like, imagine the world, because what are those site owners? What are they afraid of? Like, I'm, for instance, a newspaper, Wall Street Journal. I have a paywall. I want people to pay for my content. So of course, if some bot comes and reads this context and indexes it and gives to people for free, I don't like it. That's the primary reason why they're protecting themselves. So, but what we need, what I'm really like dreaming about when we get to it, and I'm hoping we'll get to it really soon, I want to give a power of attorney to my AI agent to act on my behalf. So I sign up to Wall Street Journal, I pay them, they're happy because I'm paying them. But then I don't want to read it myself. I want my agent to read it for me and summarize it for me. I won't share it with anybody else, just for me. So I want to give a power of attorney to my agent, read it and give it to me. That's kind of the future I'm really looking forward to. We're not there yet at all, unfortunately. That's why you need those scraping APIs. So those scraping APIs, they pretend to be human. They have lots of technical details under the hood, but they basically allow you to read pretty much any URL. So without it, the power of your agents, if you want to do research and stuff, it will be diminished. So you would have to at least set up Zenrose. And what's good is that here we have a direct link to get credentials. So you can just click it and you will get to the website, you will register, you will get your API key. So it's very easy. And also, you would need web search, because again, without web search, nothing really works. For web search, we recommend Serper. Also another API where you would have to go, get credentials, enter it. And once you have done it, you can go back to the tools area. And here you will see Zenrose. We have a dedicated tool, Zenrose Web Scrape, that scrapes those pages. You can also optionally give an access to the full API if you want to experiment. And we have Serper Web Search. So I have selected these two. Now my agent can search the web and it can scrape the web. And it works in the same way with all the other connectors. So as you can see, I have lots of different connectors configured here. I have Microsoft access to my email inbox and my SharePoint websites. I have different APIs from different Gen AI. I have Google. I have GitHub. So basically anything you want is accessible for you through these tools and connector-driven tools. And this library is also something we are extending every day to make sure you can be as powerful as you want to be.
Anton, what about? I mean, if you guys want to learn more about this, Anton and I actually did an interview about this like 8 months ago. What about MCP?
Yeah, MCP we also do support. Here I have actually just one MCP server, and I'm actually noticing we lost the add new button. So that's a great catch. Guys, in the older versions, we do have an ability to add new MCP servers. Here, I think our developers removed it. So, but we will update it. In general, it's available under the hood. You can connect to any MCP server you like. But again, this is a longer discussion. We don't really recommend connecting to whole MCP server because it just wastes your tokens. Even if you connect to MCP server, we recommend picking specific tools that they provide and using them directly. It just gives you significantly more efficiency.
Yeah, but maybe we need to talk about that in a future live stream, because that's a ton of people just don't understand.
Exactly. Yeah. So let me just quickly show again, because I think it's really cool with this local model. So as you can see, I have something pre-set up using a local model, Qwen 314B. You need a reasonably powerful machine to run it, but if you have like 24 gigs of memory or 32, you should be fine. But they have even smaller model which will run on pretty much anything. So basically, here it's absolutely the same interface. The first time, Ollama will fire up the model, so it takes more time, but then it will just it will do the dialog with me. It will call tools. So let's give it a second to fire it up, and then we will.
This is a cool. This is a cool concept, even in general. While this is just loading up, is the concept of Ollama and deploying these privately on your own machine. So maybe even in the future live stream will like show people how they can do that and set that up. But this is really cool.
Well, actually, it's all under the hood. You don't need to set it up. You just if you select Ollama, it will download it under the hood. Then actually in settings, you have local AI, and here you can see all the models we have, so you can get any additional models right from here. You don't need to go anywhere. It's all integrated.
Even better.
So yeah, and as you can see, Qwen model actually provides thought process, and this is also very funny sometimes to look at. So as you can see, I said hi, but the thought process is, okay, the user said hi. That's a greeting. I need to respond appropriately. And that's exactly how those reasoning models work under the hood. GPT-5, etc. They just don't show this to you. I mean, some of them do, some of them don't, but it kind of improves the performance. So as you can see also in our approach to the full transparency and full control, we are showing that. So then since it's now fired up, now it should be much faster. So I can do something like tell me about Paris. Now you can see it's thinking. I can see how it's thinking. Once it finishes thinking. So as you can see, the speed is quite reasonable for 14 billion parameter model. It's probably a bit slower than calling like OpenAI API. But if you want to save money and run it completely locally, that's the way it works. And again, it's quite good in calling tools, so you can create fully featured agents based on these local models as well. But it's kind of overthinking things, so maybe we need to fine tune it so that it doesn't overthink. All right, so this is the local models. Then guys, again, the point, coming back to what we discussed at the beginning, the power of the agent or the nature of the agent is context multiplied by tools. So what you can do here, some advanced things that we have. For instance, we have browser automation. This is very experimental. So like use at your own risk, but you can play with it. Let me show real quick what is possible with that. Just see like here is browser. So browser will be showing this dynamic UI. So I can do something like open EverWorker.ai and tell me about it. So as you can see, it calls this specific tools, navigating to EverWorker.ai. So hopefully it will open. Yeah, so as you can see, it opens up in the browser. Then it has access to stuff here, and this way you can work interactively with this agent to automate stuff for you. Like if you want to do, personal things where there is no API available, of course, browser automation is the answer. We haven't put too much effort into it ourselves, but if you're willing to experiment via prompting, etc., we'll happily, work with you, talk to you, because this can be quite powerful. Also, it can be a sort of an interesting hint on how to do web search for free. So searching in Google doesn't really work. Google protects very well, but I can do something like search the web for myself and tell me about him, and it will actually use. So yeah, it actually tries Google. Then it tries DuckDuckGo, because again, Google protects, but DuckDuckGo is quite good. So if you don't want to pay for APIs for web search, you can give your agent the browser tool, and then it will search for stuff on the browser, get information from there, and then will work with your API tool. So again, you can experiment in any way you like. And this is something that can also become pretty powerful. So yeah, we've been talking for quite some time. There is just one last thing I wanted to mention in terms of tools. So we also have, and this is extremely experimental, desktop automation. So it's the same, but for the full desktop. The way it works, again, it's cool in theory, doesn't really work in practice. We'll work on it more, but it also depends on the model providers. Basically, this agent takes a screenshot of your whole desktop. It estimates where a certain button is, and then it issues commands like, okay, move the mouse to 350, 150, and press it. The problem is it gets the coordinates wrong most of the time. So it tries to push the button, but it pushes a different button. But again, yeah, you can experiment with it. Again, lots of tools here. You can add your tools. You can add MCP service. We'll fix this thing in the next release, obviously. But much more we cannot possibly fit it into our current discussion. We just want you to really, experiment. Tell us what you think. We know it's rough. Be gentle to us. We'll work with you to improve it. Again, it's an internal tool. We're just happy if as many people as possible start building agents, thinking about agents, and moving into that future. So just one last thing I wanted to show is that if you enable some GenAI connectors, we also have something that's called Multimedia Studio here, which allows you to generate images, video, and text-to-speech. Eventually, we'll do speech-to-text as well. So you can choose like any model we have here. I don't know, let's try this one. And basically, you can use it for, your GenAI. Okay, well, now my Google is broken. This is funny. Let's try it with OpenAI. Also, okay, we'll fix it. It does work in the previous versions though, so I think it's this development version that's not released yet. It again might be somewhat rough around the edges, but you can use it to do videos. You can do it text to speech. You can do images, etc., etc. But the main power is, of course, coming from these agentic things. And that's what we wanted to talk to you about today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let me switch to here. Actually, this is a really good question too. Thanks for asking such good questions here. Any danger in making agents to use desktop and their internal applications?
No, I would say no, because again, normally you interact only with the tools that you make available. So of course you have to be, actually it's a good point. The most powerful tool, guys, you can give to any agents is Bash. Let me just share the screen once again. Tool is actually what Claude Code is built upon, basically. And OpenClaw is also built almost primarily on the bash tool. So we have it here as well. Basically, what it gives you is the ability to execute any terminal command. And since in the terminal, you can execute not just terminal commands, but you can run Python code, you can do pretty much anything. So if you give an agent this, they will be very, very creative in doing whatever you ask them for, because they will generate code to do stuff for you. They will, go to different websites and download things. But this is a double-edged sword, because here they are free to call different external APIs. So that's why we are actually very cautious about giving our agents full autonomy. Again, unlike Open, for instance, currently we don't have an ability for agents to run fully autonomously. It's very easy to give it to them, but we are not doing it exactly for security reasons. Because even when I used the mold book, I was always monitoring what my agent was doing here to make sure that nothing funky is happening. Because, as you know, people are trying to be smart, and they're putting prompts which try to steal your passwords, your keys, etc. But again, you have full control through limiting the tools which are used. We will give even more control to make the user explicitly allow or forbid certain commands, for instance, inside bash, that will give much more security. And once we do that, we will also enable these agents to run autonomously. But in general, sort of, you have to think which tools you give to the agents to be safe.
Yeah, that's a very important topic of, like, a lot of people are just thinking that AI is just magic and then it just does anything, but you still require thinking on your end, and you still have to, like, know what you're doing on your end for the most part without just giving it everything and access to absolutely everything. So it's a great point. But the whole idea is democratizing the idea of AI agents and using very powerful agentic AI systems so that anyone has access to this. And like I said, thank you so much for all this, Anton. We're just about at the end here, just for the sake of everyone's time. Is that number one? We have the link in the comments. Link is in the comments for everyone to download this. What we're asking of you, if you download it, please give us feedback. We want the whole point of us doing this is so that you give us the feedback of, hey, this isn't working. Hey, we want you to add this. Hey, do this would be better for my business this way. That's how any of these systems get better, is by feedback. So if you download it, please give us any feedback. I'm sure if you're here, you see us all the time on social media. You have access to me, to Anton, to our whole team, basically. So please send any feedback that you might have and give it a try, basically. But besides that, Anton, that's kind of all that I have here. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, just one thing, guys, because again, I actually really enjoyed doing those agentic stuff a couple of years ago when we had the platform. Now that we have this desktop tool, which we will be improving hopefully with you, so we want to make it regular, basically. So if you don't mind, also tell us what you think. But having like weekly informal hangouts where we can discuss different scenarios, different agents, what's happening in the industry, like new AI things, etc. Just to kind of build the community, get feedback, exchange ideas, etc. I think that's something that could be pretty cool. So again, let us know what you think, and we'll if we get enough interest, we'll make it regular.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting point here. And sorry if you can hear my dog howling in the back. But the agentic AI space right now, when you think about, OpenAI, Meta, Claude, all of them, massive corporations, basically, where they're a million miles away. You have access to us on these hangouts. You could literally be like, ask Anton a question in the moment. So trying our best to bring agentic AI to the masses to try these things and actually understand them from someone that has literally been on the front lines and is continually being on the front lines of agentic AI, and especially when it comes down to implementing it into your business. So we're always trying to help businesses grow via their own agentic AI workforce. So for these future sessions, come with questions. If you want to learn, invite your friends, share all of this. This will be on our YouTube after, LinkedIn after, Anton's Facebook, all of these, so that we can continuously have these conversations. And if you ever want to learn more, you can just head over to everworker.ai, which is our website, and or our LinkedIn channel or our YouTube channel, like we said, and you have access to us. So thank you all so much for joining. Yeah, like Anton said, we'll be doing this a lot more for everyone just to learn, and so everyone can try this. Maybe next time, Anton, we'll go over some use cases, and you can actually show us, hey, if you want to do X, Y, or Z, press these buttons and follow along, basically. Now, that would be
that's the idea. Cool. That's the idea, to make it as painless as possible eventually.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Anton. This was invaluable, and thank you so much for making this. Everyone, I hope that you all enjoyed this as well. Go download it, give it a try, tell us what you think, and then we'll see you for the future sessions. Thanks a lot.